Hello, this is Father Foster. This is a lecture for human geography. This is lecture number 1, the first of our video lectures in lieu of being able to meet in person. And we talked last time we met, a couple of weeks ago now, on the Central European countries. And you'll remember we talked about Germany, how Germany was today the 3rd largest economy in the world, after the United States and China. It is one of the most populous nations in Europe. Russia is the most populous, but it lies entirely in Eastern Europe and beyond. France is a pretty big country, but Germany has the population beat on France. It's a Central European country rather than a Western European country. Today, Germany is a democracy, and you recall we talked about their coalition-style governments. They have a federal system, very much like the United States. In fact, the Constitution they have now was written in the late 1940s and is based on our Constitution. Germany is much in the news this week. They, I believe, last night closed their borders to most of their neighbors because of the virus outbreak. But the German economy is very strong, so they'll probably come through this present crisis without too much difficulty. We're going to move immediately south of Germany now to the Alpine countries. So if you look at a map of Europe, and I hope you can get your phone out or a tablet or a laptop and call up a map of Europe. In future, I'll try to print one out before I start my lecture. I didn't think about it. I'll show you the book in a minute, but immediately south of Germany, you'll find the Alpine countries. They're called that because the Alps dominate them. The mountain chain, the Alps, is the 2nd biggest in Europe. The Caucasus Mountains in the far southeast of Europe are the tallest. But the Alps are, very large, very old mountains that run right through the heart of Europe. And Germany has part of the Alps within it. Southernmost Germany, southernmost Bavaria, is Alpine itself. So the Black Forest, then you get into the Alps in the very south of Germany. But when I say Alps, I'll bet all of you immediately thought about Switzerland. Switzerland is an entirely Alpine country. It's located, all of it, inside the Alps itself. Now, Switzerland is a very old confederation and a democracy. It's one of the oldest democracies in the world. Although not democratic as you and I would think of it today. There were some cantons, that's what you call the counties that make up Switzerland, about the size of a Texas county or a little smaller. They're called cantons. Some of the cantons of Switzerland didn't give women the right to vote until just less than 20 years ago. So when I say it's a democracy, I mean for men who are citizens. It has been a democracy for centuries and centuries. It's one of the oldest in the world. It is a confederation. Switzerland is a confederation. Our country is a federal state. We have a united state, a federal central government, and then each of the 50 states is sovereign in some things locally. And that's the way that Switzerland is. Switzerland is a little less tightly bound together than the United States is. The central government of Switzerland is a little weaker than our federal government. The cantons have a lot of authority there. So you need to deal not only with a central Swiss government, but with a cantonal government if you have any business dealings one day with Switzerland. And you might, because the banking sector of Switzerland is huge. It is one of the world's leading financial countries. The reason for that is secrecy. You can open bank accounts in Switzerland, and your home nation, you're an American, you're a Russian, you got a little money you'd rather your government not know you had. They have for many centuries been very secretive bankers in Switzerland. Now, I will say that in the last 20 years, the Swiss have opened up a bit. You still have to go to court there and prove all kinds of needs to get the records if you're a foreign country looking for money from your citizens. But it's a little easier to get it now than it was until recently. But still, You want to hide your money? That's a good place to hide it because they have a lot of secrecy with their banking. And therefore, a lot of banks are centered in Switzerland because people like that feature of banks being secret. In any event, one of the most interesting things about Switzerland is its linguistic heritage. And let me see if I can show you I'll just pick up my phone and show you this map. If I can. Yeah, there it is. So there is a map of Switzerland, and you'll see there that there are actually 4 languages spoken in Switzerland. There is Italian, there is German, there is French, and there is a language called Romanche that is spoken in a few isolated places. But if you're a French citizen, you actually study multiple languages in school growing up. The goal is to have every Swiss citizen be able to speak German, French, and Italian. I don't know if they all have to learn Romanche. It's only spoken in a few mountain valleys. But when I was showing you the map, you probably noticed the green was French. Those are the areas closest to France. Not a big shock there. Geneva is a largely French-speaking city. The biggest city in Switzerland is a French-speaking city. It's in the west of France. But the biggest chunk of Switzerland was that yellow, and that makes up the majority of the surface area of Switzerland, and that was the German-speaking region. The German-speaking region of Switzerland speaks something called Süddeutsch, Southern German, a dialect of German. It's a little lazier than the formal German of North Germany, but it's German. And Zurich, Switzerland. Zurich is the largest city of German-speaking Switzerland. Unsurprisingly, the nib of Switzerland sort of sticks down into Italy is the Italian-speaking part of Italy. I think the largest city in the Italian-speaking part of Italy is San Moritz, but I might be wrong about that. But they're the people. That's their mother tongue is Italian. Romanche was just a few valleys that were in purple on that map. It is a very ancient Romance language that got isolated because of the high mountains around the local people there. Instead of picking up Italian or French, kept their own development of Latin into Romanche as their mother tongue. I think it's only 5 or 8% of Swiss people speak that as their mother tongue. But as I say, in school, if you were a German speaker at home, you would definitely be immersed in French at school. And you would, probably by high school, be working on your Italian. And vice versa. Everybody in the country, I am confident, speaks German and French with fluency. I don't know if they all speak Italian with fluency, but I think they do know it. In addition, the Swiss are one of those European countries that put a great deal of emphasis on learning English. So if you visit Switzerland, you will probably be able to converse with everybody you meet in English. They're an international banking country, and that means English, right? So English is extremely commonly spoken there. The Swiss are a mountainous country. They depend a lot on tourism. Skiing is big there. But also international organizations. Geneva has for a very long time been a kind of international city. That was sort of it's a neutral country. Switzerland is a neutral country. They belong to no military alliances. While they have deals with the European Union, they're not even a member of that. They sit smack dab in the middle. During World War II, the war raged all around them, right? Italy and Germany were fascist states that formed the Axis on each side of Switzerland. France fell to the Germans. Southern France was occupied by Italians for a while. All around them, the Second World War raged, and the Swiss were never touched because the world appreciates having a country that will not be part of any fight, that will be a neutral that you can go to. The International Red Cross has its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. The Geneva Convention, you've probably heard of in war movies, that's, again, a reflection that no matter who's at war with whom, the Swiss are going to be kind of honest brokers in the middle because of their complete neutrality on those kind of things, which is also helpful if you're a banker, not to take sides, right? Switzerland is a very developed economy, highly educated population, as I've been talking about. It has a surprisingly large military. It's a neutral country. It means it has no allies to come to defend it. They've got to defend themselves if ever attacked. And they take that seriously. So every male has to serve in the military in young adulthood, unless they have a medical excuse. And when they leave their 2 years of military service, they take their rifle with them, and they have to come back for reserve training. But as a result, I believe Switzerland's the most heavily armed country in the world. Not the United States, which may surprise you. I think it's Switzerland. But the reason for that is they want to stay neutral. They don't want to be invaded. And no one has invaded them in, I think, 700 years. Because remember, what's the first rule of defensive warfare? Always take the high ground. And the Swiss, by definition, always have the high ground. It is very foolish to invade a mountainous country and try to take it over. The local people will know every rook and every rock and every cranny. And if they're heavily armed and well-trained as fighters, you're not going to be able to subdue them. And nobody has even tried for centuries. So the Swiss have a large army, seldom have to use it. But almost never have to use it, actually. They don't take part in international peacekeeping. They have no allies to serve alongside anywhere else in the world. But there you go. So Switzerland, a very interesting country in its own right. In Lecture 2, we'll talk about Austria and a little country called Liechtenstein, which is between Austria and Switzerland. And we may have time to talk about Slovenia just a bit. Anyway, that ends Lecture 1 on the Alpine countries, Switzerland. Thank you.